We finally have some huge news and updates for Dune Awakening that's fast approaching, and boy oh boy has Dune Awakening needed some good news. The game's had a rough ride. The stats and Reddit posts have the game bleeding from crippling strike. And if you haven't checked in for a while, you will be absolutely astonished at the massive changes that have happened already. We've had a huge increase to the draw distance, a complete revamp to the loot system in Deep Desert, now with all schematics and being instant to the player, meaning everyone gets loot. The carrier and assault ornithopters feel like rocket ships with big increases to thrusters, speed, makes moving around enjoyable. Huge change to the inventory for the assault being able to carry way more, and the Chome Bank finally getting upgraded to allow vehicle storage transfers and 500 slots, 30k worth of volume. But that's just the tip of the sand dunes. One of the most anticipated additions yet. Feature that will completely change how we move, build, and explore in Arrakis. So let's dive straight into it. The biggest updates, the most important changes, and everything you need to know about what's coming to Dune Awakening in 2026 that we know so far. Let's start off with the most anticipated change, which I can basically show you right this very moment. This is how it's going to look. You're in Haga Basin, the servers just reset in Deep Desert, and instead of breaking this freaking thing down into a million pieces, throwing it in your ornithopter, carrying it to Deep Desert, this is what it's going to look like. We're going to throw in all these items into the harvester, jump into the carrier ornithopter, fly this bad boy through Haga Basin, hit the boundary, and boom, we're going to be loading in to the world map where we'll be able to transport the harvester, not just to the Deep Desert, but in theory, we should be able to fly it to Arrakeen or Harko Village, go to the Chome Bank, and dump and transfer items in between the harvester's inventory, which, if you have the unique schematic, which has a max volume of 11,250 and 30 slots, this is the best carry capacity we have right now. But continuing on, we would dump stuff, transfer stuff we need from Chome Bank, then we're going to set out to the Deep Desert, and this is what it's going to look like. We'd fly into the Deep Desert from Haga Basin or one of the cities, and when we load into the Deep Desert, we'll have our harvester and carrier spawn on the ground, just like it always should have. All the meanwhile, this simple addition has saved us 8 hours every week we play this game, if not even more. So yes, next week, according to the very latest developer update, which just dropped the other day, a huge shout out to today's sponsor, Foundation Galactic Frontier, an addictive new space strategy RPG and management sim out now on mobile and PC. Set in Isaac Asimov's Foundation universe, you begin as a lone space trader with a damaged ship, scavenging wrecks, mining asteroids, and rebuilding your flagship piece by piece, while having complete freedom to explore a vast universe filled with countless worlds. Inside your ship are over 25 fully upgradable rooms, reactors, crew quarters, research labs, smelters, and every upgrade changes how efficiently your fleet annihilates in PvP and PvE. Progress through the ranks as you recruit specialists boosting production, assign them to research projects, craft advanced combat ships, and develop new technologies to strengthen your trade routes. Galactic Frontier truly has an impressive, unique dual combat system, commanding massive space battles one moment, then dropping your champion onto alien worlds the next. In orbit, it's all about firepower synergies as you manufacture and deploy your combat craft. On the ground, the pace completely flips, real-time action, where your hero's skills, combos, ultimate lets you outplay enemies far above your power level, making every victory feel earned. Meet many iconic characters from the Foundation universe, like Harry Seldom, Bel Rios, in a story-driven campaign packed with branching choices, progression, and cinematic moments. You can download Foundation Galactic Frontier free right now using the link in the description, or by scanning the QR code on the screen. Use my exclusive code SINKILLER to grab a starter bundle of bonus resources and kickstart your journey. Finally mentioned the cargo container, but that's coming in December. But honestly, the cargo container isn't as important as this change. The upcoming patch will enable the ability to travel between the map with harnessed vehicles, and we're excited to add the cargo container shortly after in December. This is freaking massive. That scenario we just ran through, saving you hours upon hours, this alone is going to bring a lot of people back to the game. One thing we don't know for sure yet is it doesn't mention players. I'm hoping we can move and travel between maps with harnessed vehicles and other players being in the vehicle, because once we get that, to me, we enter very close to the 1.0 release of Dune Awakening. That's just my personal opinion. But continuing on, the cargo container, and hopefully going to be a huge storage container that can hold at least double what the unique centrifuge of your harvester can hold. Otherwise, we would just use the harvester or the buggy. It really should be very expensive, mostly centered around guild dynamics, at least in my mind, and allow guilds to pretty much move their whole base or operation out to deep desert in one go, and vice versa, coming back to Haggard Basin, saving the stupid amount of trips we've all had to do and all that extra time just flying around in a very boring loop. Continuing on, we have the player event log. This is going to be another improved system, particularly for guilds. You're going to know who's accessing what, with item withdrawal and deposits being in the event log. Resource refinement, this is particularly big because at the moment there is no way to know if you've either been robbed or someone has just built stuff from your own resources when you're in a guild. There's also the building tool actions within the sub-thief are all going to be recorded. At least that's my understanding. This is going to be pretty nightmare of a log once this is all in there. So they will need some sort of system to filter and categorize it, which they mentioned they're going to try to do. Because when you think about it, that is an insane amount of things to track. Every time you withdraw or deposit an item, boom. That's 2 transactions right there. You multiply that by 20 players over a few hours. It's going to be kind of mind-blowing. I assume that's going to be for everything. So even just withdrawing items from fabricators, it really will be chaotic. However, it will be extremely helpful. Not to mention when you're sharing or your manufacturing space, you'll be able to tell exactly who is crafting what. But it will be interesting to see how much of it captures. Does it mention the circuits, fabricating machine, and you would assume it would mention the player's name, of course. But I just wanted to show this because it does emphasize how robust this log will be in terms of being able to track all the inner workings of your guild. I'm sure this will be expanded on further with the aim of being able to have 100% coverage of everything that happens within a sub-thief. When it comes to the game balancing, they just have a high level, mentioning that they're going to be tuning and reworking skills, weapons, and abilities, and it's going to be an ongoing process. They specify they're focusing on the upcoming Rapier rework, which is requiring more time to get right. So to be frank, I don't really know why they're focusing on the Rapier, so let me know in the comments if you can shed some more light on that. They also try to emphasize that they're trying to build a meaningful way to disengage from combat encounters, basically escape. Now, with the recent nerfs to the Ornithopter, not being able to quickly eat it, jump out, fire a rocket, jump back in, it's definitely changed a lot of the way you could escape, as you would be able to very quickly pop into your Ornithopter and get away, particularly if you had the boost on. To me, it was sort of already inbuilt into the game. But that's assuming you're not in the research labs or the large crash ships. But it seems like they are trying to account for those scenarios, and they are looking to provide a meaningful way to disengage from those tight PvP encounters. Don't know how they'll do it. They do mention that these principles have guided their tweaks to Crippling Strike, and there's a huge debate on Crippling Strike as we stand right now, as many people think it's too much of a nerf. But hey, maybe it was just relied on way too much as a cornerstone of most builds. Another important change that came recently was reduced stamina dash cost, and then they also increased the dash distance, so you'd move further when you did a dash and it would cost less stamina. And it did allow for a bit more dynamic escapes, smarter moves, but it also does maintain the tension. I do agree with this statement that they made there. But there's a lot to the game balancing, and many people have very different sides and arguments on the game balancing. But I think the game balancing needs to be thrown out the door until we get to the 2026 portion of this video, because this is all going to change again. So with that in mind, let's move on to the other huge update. And this is one that cannot be understated, because this is probably, arguably, depending on the crowd, the most requested feature so far. And that is the character transfer and server merges. So the main takeaway from this is they're going to be ready within the next few weeks. So I'm hoping I'll be able to test this and show you very soon, particularly if it comes next week or the week after. I will have a video out covering all the changes, just like I always do. So if you do get anything out of those, please consider like and subscribe. It goes a long way. But the main takeaway is this feature will allow you to move your character along with your progression, which means all the levels that you've unlocked, all the story content, pretty much the whole package deal. This is a huge system that they're implementing. It's also going to include the inventory and anything stored in your bank. So the inventory, this is just going to be what is on your person, your character, in their inventory, and anything stored in your backup tool. And the backup tool also references your vehicle backup tool, but there's also a new system coming in, which is the base backup tool. We'll come to that in a second. But you're taking pretty much your progression, your inventory, anything stored in your bank, which is really important because we did recently get that massive change where you can pretty much store 30K of volume and 500 slots, which is huge. And you're going to be able to take all of it, everything, to a new world and siege of your choice. So in theory, everything in here that I've collected, you'll be able to go to the server, see the server list, click on the server, and there should be a new button somewhere on this screen that will say transfer character, and that will transfer you to the new server and your new siege. Now, what's important is I imagine you'll have to be in Arrowkeen or Harco Village to do the transfer, but you may just be able to have your character anywhere and it will just transfer you over. But we'll find out the more nitty-gritty details very soon. And this is where we get to the new feature. This one is going to be pretty damn massive. To make the move easier, they're also going to introduce what they've internally called the base backup tool. This new tool lets you store your entire base and all of its contents. So we are talking, in my case, this freaking huge base with hundreds of storage containers, hundreds of thousands of pieces of inventory, all are going to be able to get captured in the base backup tool, similar to how we do it now where we use the base backup tool, capture it, and if we want to go place it down somewhere else, we can take it into Deep Desert now, throw the whole base down with all its content. But in this case, we're changing server, so we'd jump into another server, be able to place the base down and have all the containers exactly where they are with all the exact same content. This is pretty mind-blowing. Now, you're probably like me and extremely skeptical about how this is actually going to work in practice, and I would be very cautious and hopefully be able to do some thorough testing to see how well this works. But I would expect something like this to be very broken initially, so be very careful. I would not be the guinea pigs to start with. That's just my opinion based off everything we've experienced. If you've been playing Dune, you know, don't make the rookie mistake and be first. But once this system is complete and intact and works 100%, this is going to make jumping between servers freaking amazing. How often will we be able to jump into another server? Don't know the details yet, but this base backup tool will be completely game changing. This will completely eliminate the need to do multiple trips to the bank to store things for the transfer. You should just be able to now capture your base, boom, it's all done, go to Arrowkeen or Harco Village, then complete the transfer. And again, they mentioned we'll be able to test this out next week, and I'll definitely be doing that and providing a video. They mentioned that the server merges, these are going to follow after. So by the end of this year, they reckon they're going to outline all the necessary information about the process, but it will be quite some time before we actually see the merging process happening. So this is going to be a 2026 feature, at least in my mind. So I reckon this will happen around chapter 3. But let me know what you think about the merging. This has been one of the most anticipated features. I know everyone's been screaming about this, and this will help the game's longevity. Chapter 3 is going to be the next content update. Now, the biggest thing that we know about this isn't even really mentioned in here, but they mentioned they're going to enrich the endgame experience. Lansraad is transforming into a contract-based system that offers repeatable PVE activities as well, expanding character progression with specialization, which they sort of show this image here, which is very, very freaking interesting. One, keystone purchased. What the hell is a keystone? That sounds very intriguing to me. Some sort of way to purchase an item that will boost your power maybe. But also note that it does look like there's going to be an increase on level cap. We have here as an example 799, which makes a lot of sense as they have mentioned the numbers go up is a thing that's going to be happening. Level 200 characters will be a thing of the past. There might be uncapped levels and a completely new progression skill system where we may be able to level up certain skills and focus in on particular builds. But a very new and intriguing system's coming. We also know that they are going to be introducing a new class, but we'll come to that in the next segment. In the meantime, development continues across all fronts, including bug fixes, ongoing balance updates, and quality of life improvement based heavily on the feedback, such as an in-game vendor with past Twitch drops will be arriving in the November update, so I'll be able to show you that soon. But that basically summarizes what they've just given us in terms of updating. Most of this will be hands-on next week, but just to give you an idea, these changes are freaking huge. There is a lot more to be said on this, but let's stick to what's coming now in 2026, as they really don't talk about it much. One of the best sources of what's coming in 2026 is this video done by GameStar. I'll put a link in the description. Highly recommend watching this. But this video is basically a fortune teller. It's already covered many of the functions that we've already seen coming, which included the vehicle recovery system, the increased storage at your Chome Bank, and many more features. So it has a good track record for predicting what is to come. And many of the things that were discussed in this video reach out to what's coming in 2026. So we're going to just strip this back and cover what they discuss, because it's pretty much the most up-to-date and accurate information we have. And one of the biggest changes coming in 2026, Chapter 3, which is in the first 3-4 months of next year, is we're going to get the complete revamp of the PVE and most likely PvP section of the game. So they're going to be splitting and having entirely different endgame loops for the PvE players and the PvP. So Deep Desert will be returning back to how it was originally, where you'd have Aero as the only PvE section and the rest of the whole desert will just be pure PvP. I say that's freaking awesome. That's how I'd like the game to be, because more than likely they will probably have a complete separate map for PvE players. So finally separating the two audiences that play this game and trying to make both happy. Now you can say this will be the doom of the game, but let me know what you think in the comments, because if they can pull it off and turn the deep desert back to how it was, that will certainly pull the PvP players back in. And if they can satisfy the PvE side of it with the new map and content endgame loop, then they should have a winner on their hands. But it's important to stress, what's coming in 2026 will be very different. 2 different systems for the 2 different player bases. And just to give you some reference, this is what Joel said about it.
And we're building out the plan for how we're going to expand on the endgame. We're going to work towards making more PvE activities for people in the endgame. And we're going to push the deep desert back towards what it was originally intended to be, which is this PvP sandbox. So kind of separating the 2 types of players so that they don't get angry at each other and at us, and then kind of giving them their own paths of progression through the game.
And then he continues on to mention this.
Activities for the PvE players. Once we get the PvE players to have the right amount of activities in other places, then we can think about bringing the deep desert back up towards what it was originally intended to be.
So the first priority is fixing the game for the PvE players, and then they're going to be looking at the PvP. So my assumption is they will be splitting the 2 by having a different zone or map, but that's just my assumption, because if you truly want to split them, you're going to have to give them a completely different endgame. But something huge like that is coming for sure. So moving on from that, what else is coming in Chapter 3 possibly, or at least in 2026, is going to be Tier 7. Very important to understand this, because all the prices you're paying for items now are going to be a fraction of that once Tier 7 comes out, because there should be a ton of things associated with it. New items, uniques, buildings, a whole range of stuff should be coming with Tier 7. That is slated or mentioned for 2026. So do be mindful about that with everything you do within the game, as it does completely change and reset so many of the pricing, marketplace, everything. But let's have a quick listen to what Joel says when asked about Tier 7.
I think we'll increase the tiers, over time. What we'll do when we do that is we'll add more tiers and we'll decrease the grind for the Tier 6. So the top tier will always be the hardest. If we add Tier 7, then Tier 6 will become easier. We'll make the recipes easier to get, make the resources less intense. But then Tier 7 will be the one where it's more intense. Because the top tier is always intended for guild play, right? People playing in groups or with big guilds. There is an element of like how we set up rewards in the Lansraad that is coming. Supposed to encourage solo players as well, giving them more daily rewards.
But you can see a huge emphasis on Tier 7 being for guilds, and that the Tier 6 resources will be even easier to obtain, or they'll just be less grind as a reduction of cost on all the items and things we manufacture. So that's a pretty huge change, and Tier 7 will be geared towards endgame, deep desert, PvP, guild-related activities, which will really drive the focus back to where it should be for the PvP players. Grinding and protecting resource, supply chains, and all those kind of things to be able to build up your power and your guild. Now, when it comes to the Lansraad, they do mention in the latest developer update that the team is making excellent progress transforming the Lansraad into a contract-based system that offers repeatable PvE activities, expanding the character progression with specializations. We even can get some additional information on this. And Joel mentions this about it.
We set up rewards in the Lansraad that is coming. Supposed to encourage solo players as well, giving them more daily rewards and for logging in and contract-based. So
contract-based, that's
putting
cool.
in the Lansraad so that instead of it being this big dump of resources and items, people are actually going and doing activities in the world to solve the Lansraad. So, and you can find different types of contracts. I put some examples in my post, like assassination and things like that. So should be hopefully a good change for the end game.
So Joel mentions some of the examples that he provided in a post, which goes quite far back. This is the roadmap where they mention they're thinking about contracts relating to assassinations, treasure maps, races, construction challenges, duels, faction versus faction maps, improved control points, scavenger hunts, and temporary crafting challenges. So these are some of the things that have been roughly discussed. We don't know for certain what is locked in, but in 2026, Lansraad will be based more around activities like this. Duels and faction versus faction maps sound incredibly exciting. Assassinations to me sound very boring unless it's assassinating players rather than just an NPC, go to a location, kill one of these NPC kind of things. But it could be cool if it is in a research lab or a difficult area to get to. But again, this is a complete rework and change to the Lansraad. These are some of the activities we can expect. We also get some confirmation that there will be some more extended permissions to the guild system. But from the sound of this video that we're about to listen to, it sounds like it's a long way off or not coming anytime soon.
So there are plans to extend on the permission system and try to improve the way that it works and allow people to set up more custom settings for it. So yes, that is ongoing. I don't know which patch version it's sort of set up for.
Yeah.
It'd be one of the things that comes. It won't be something that comes in a big update. It'll come between. It's one of the things the social team is working on.
So with that, it really sounds like it could be any time next year. But I believe with the addition of the new player event log system that they're building, sometime after this, will this new system come through where you'll have a much more finesse and control over guilds and permission levels. Some of the other crazy things that they mentioned in this video, which we haven't really heard a peep about since, is going to be the email warning system. Basically, you'll be able to sign up, get an email saying when your base is low or at risk. So warnings and errors could be getting sent to your email address. But they have mentioned a notification system direct to your email could come for those important base triggers. There's also a chance we'll be getting this care package system sometime in 2026, where after 6 months of inactivity, if you do come back, when you start off, you'll be able to go into your claim rewards and get a care package, which will have a bunch of resources, perhaps vehicles, and a ton of stuff to get you started to speed up your progression. I don't know about that, but could be very useful and people may like that change. But that is slated for 2026 as well. One thing that they really need to expand on is the guild's reward system. And that is slated for some upgrades in 2026, particularly some key features that many people have requested. So let's have a listen.
So guilds can, for example, the exchange. People have to go to the city right now to use the exchange. But what we'll probably do is add a way for guilds to get access to an exchange that they can place in their bases. And then people can go to the exchange in a guild base. So yeah, we are planning on expanding the guild offering in terms of both giving them more activities, but also increasing how you can rank up your guilds, or at least get access to different placeables and rewards for guilds, specifically by competing in the Lansraad, which is...
So when you listen to that, it sounds like pretty much we'll be able to get a system where we can access the marketplace from our own base. Anyone who's in a guild, sounds like you could access it. It doesn't really seem like there will be any more incentives for being in a guild or in a big guild, other than being able to exist in the PvP zones, but it's yet to be seen. But there are some plans, at least right now, that we will be getting a system of accessing the marketplace from our bases. To me, that is a huge, big change. That is also slated for 2026. Now, we know we're getting the storage container and we're going to be able to harness any vehicle and transport it into the deep desert from Carebear. But what about people? Because once we get this, officially, for me, Dune Awakening is in 1.0. Assuming we have the storage container, we can transport vehicles with the harness technology. The last thing we need is being able to carry people within those vehicles. You have a bunch of people in the carrier, some people in the harvester, fly that through Carebear. When will we be getting that? Well, that is also slated for 2026. Not expecting that to come this year. There's still a lot of issues around it, according to Joel in this interview, but it is worth noting 2026, that's when we'll be getting it. At least they mentioned they've been looking at it and trying to get it working 100%, but I dare say it will be coming for sure in 2026. So going over it again, we'll have a completely new endgame loop for the PvE players. We probably expect that first. If not at the same time, they'll release one for the PvP players, returning the deep desert back to its original state. We'll also be getting the Tier 7 Xbox releases coming too, server transfers and migration, vehicle harnessing, storage container, a way to access the marketplace from your base, new Lansraad. So much is planned for this game. It really will be completely different to what we've experienced in 2025. But let me know what you think about all these changes and everything we've covered. What are you looking forward to the most? What does the game need to survive? What do you think about them splitting the end game and having two different maps for PvP and PvE? Do you think that's how they'll do it? But if you did like this, consider liking and subscribing. Stay tuned as we'll be covering a lot of these changes in great detail this week. Appreciate your time. Thanks very much for watching. Peace. You can download Foundation Galactic Frontier free right now using the link in the description or by scanning the QR code on the screen. Use my exclusive code SYNKILLER to grab a starter bundle of bonus resources and kickstart your journey.